Hey everybody, so I am going to talk to you a little bit about Lab 3 and that assignment that you have coming up. Um, the whole purpose of this lab is to basically prepare your data so that we can then go in later and analyze it. Okay, so we'll be analyzing it with t-tests and correlations, but right now we need to just focus mostly on how do we get these variables that we're interested in into a format that we can actually analyze them in SPSS. So there's actually three big things we're going to be doing here. So I'll walk you through those. I'll try to go slow and make sure that you understand how to do everything. This can be a little time consuming, okay? So just keep that in mind when you start out, that it's time consuming. You're also going to have to do it all in SPSS. So you'll have to be logged into that VMware Horizon thing to get into the UNCP campus desktops to be able to do it, the whole lab. So you just want to budget time to do that, okay? Also, it might be worthwhile just making sure that you have a really good internet connection, even if you have to go somewhere, like on campus. If you're anywhere near campus, the computer labs in the library and the UC are open. Just make sure your internet connection is good, because this is something where you're going to need to be saving everything, and it will be bad if it doesn't save. Okay, so keep all those things in mind. All right. So I have here on my screen pulled up Lab 3, the instructions for that, and I also have our data set over here on the right. So let's just come over to Lab 3 and look at this really quick. Your very first thing that you're going to be doing is called reverse coding negatively worded items. And so it says we need to do this because we want to be able to combine the items later. For example, we need to make sure all the extroversion questions are getting at high extroversion. So let me sort of explain what that means. I'm going to come over here to my data set and I'm going to go to variable view. Okay. This lab will really just deal with the big 5 questions. There's 44 of those, as you know from doing your measure section. And we have 12 self-compassion questions that are all SC items, and then we have 5 life satisfaction items. Okay, so let's go up here. I'm looking at the BF items, and I'm looking down here on this Lab 3 assignment. You see where it says extroversion under the big 5, and it has 6, 21, and 31. So I'm just going to go look at those items so we can talk about them a little bit. I might have to move this over some more. Let's see. Okay. All right. So BF6, that item is, I see myself as someone who is reserved. Okay. So if you're thinking about this as an extroversion item, it's sort of it's the opposite of extroversion, right? So if I were to say 5, strongly agree, that would mean that I'm introverted, not extroverted. Okay. The next extroversion item that we have an issue with is 21. So get on here to 21. I see myself as someone who tends to be quiet. Same thing here. This is an extroversion question, but it's basically measuring the opposite of extroversion. Okay. If I were to say 5, strongly agree, that would actually mean that I'm more introverted, right? And then the last one for extroversion that we might have an issue with is 31. So down here, I see myself as someone who is sometimes shy or inhibited. Okay, again, the opposite of extroversion. So if I said 5, strongly agree, that would actually mean I'm introverted, not extroverted. The problem here is that what we really want to do is take all the extroversion items and average them. Okay, so my other extroversion items, as you probably already discovered when doing your measure section, BF1's an extroversion item. So it says, I see myself as someone who is talkative. 11, I see myself as someone who is full of energy. those are more like what we would expect from extroversion, like talkative, you got a lot of energy. So if people are saying 5 to that, you're like, yes, they're extroverted. So here's the problem. Let's say that I'm an extroverted person, okay, which I am. So for BF1, which is talkative, I say 5 because I'm really talkative, okay? But then when I get to BF6, it says is reserved. So I'm not, so I'm going to say 1, okay? And then I'm going to get to 11, it says full of energy. I am, right? So I'm going to be a 5. What if I just average those 3 things together, right? It'd be 11 divided by 3. Okay, that is not a good indicator of my extroversion score. My 1 is pulling my average down a lot, right? And so what we're going to be doing here is all the questions that are what's called reverse worded, okay? We're going to basically be flipping their scales. So for me, for BF6, where it says, I see myself as someone who is reserved, I, as an extroverted person, I'm going to say a 1. And then we're going to actually go in and flip people's answers. So if I said a 1, I'm basically, my answer is going to be changed to a 5. Okay, which is more reflective of extroversion. So then I'll have a 5 on all of the variables, right? So all the 3 that I was talking about. And so my average will be a 5, and that's more reflective of my extroverted personality. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing in part 1. Basically, any question here that's a reverse worded question, the scores have to be flipped. So we're going to spend a little bit of time doing that first. And if you look over here at lab 3, they're all like clearly outlined for you. Just note here that these are the big 5 questions. So when you're looking at the big 5 questions and you're looking at your items over here, you're looking at BF items, okay? For agreeableness, oh, let me fix that. Okay, for agreeableness, that's the same sort of thing. It'll also be a BF item because it's part of the big 5. Okay, so BF2, BF12, BF27. But when you get down here to the self-compassion items, those are going to be down here, SC items. This is really important to remember. I usually have a lot of students mistake this, right? And that messes up a lot of stuff. So they'll just forget that they should be using the SC items for self-kindness, common humanity, mindfulness. So just make sure that you're aware of that. The SC items are what you're using for this self-compassion stuff. We actually don't have any reverse coded questions for life satisfaction. Like on all 5 of these, if you were to say, I think it's a 1 to 7 scale. Let me check. Yes. Okay. So for these, if I said 7 on all of them, it would mean I have a high life satisfaction score. So in most ways, my life is close to ideal. 7 would be highly satisfied. Conditions of my life are excellent. 7 would be highly satisfied. I'm satisfied with my life. 7 would be highly satisfied, etc. Okay, nothing to reverse code for life satisfaction. Okay, so let's actually get into how we are going to do this. So I have here sort of your instructions. I also note that this is annotated, okay, from like a long time ago. Look at that, 2015, good heavens. Okay, so I have little notes in here on how to do it. So if you get lost, please make sure you're reading these little notes. I'll try to be really self-explanatory in this video, but still, there's notes. Okay. So let's, in this video, I'm only going to do the extroversion ones because you have to do all of them for your homework. So you'll have to do the extroversion ones and you'll have to do all the other ones. So just don't lose sight of that. All right, so we're going to go to transform, okay? And then we're going to go to recode into different variables. So I've got transform, recode into different variables. What this means is that we are going to be creating, like for example, for extroversion 6, that's BF6, we're going to be creating a brand new variable called BF6R. Okay, and that means that, hey, this is the big 5-6 question, but it's reversed. Okay, that's what we're communicating here. So I'm going to go transform, recode into different variables. click on that. And then remember, you can sort of hover in this section and right click and do display variable names, which is definitely going to be your preference here. Remember, you can also make this box bigger if you want. So lots of options. You can move over everything that's in step 1 at one time. And the reason that you can do that is because everything that has to be reverse coded here is on a 1 to 5 scale. So you can do it all at one time. So I'm just going to do the extroversion ones, but remember, when you're doing it, you can sit down and just move each one that you need over. So for extroversion, I need to move over BF6, BF21, and BF31. So I'm going to go do 6. Now look, you can click on it and do the arrow button, but you can also come down here like BF21 and you can double click and it moves it over. I think double clicking is easier than BF31. But for you guys, when you're doing this, you're going to do those and you're going to keep going. You're going to do BF2, BF12, BF27, BF37, BF8, BF18, BF23, BF43, BF9, etc. When you get down to the self-compassion ones, you're going to do SC11, SC12, SC4, SC8, SC1, SC9. Okay, moving them all over. All right. So after you move them all over, you actually have to go in and give them new names. So if I'm on BF6, this is basically saying I'm going to take BF6, I'm going to turn it into a new variable. And like I said, we're going to call that BF6R. So I click on BF6 up here in the numeric variable output variable section. I go to output variable, the name, BF_6R. Okay. You can do a label if you want. You don't have to. I mean, I probably wouldn't here because to me, this is very self-explanatory. I mean, it is BF6 reversed. Okay. So you have to hit the change button in order for it to show up over here. And then you have to manually select the next one and do the same thing. So if you're following along with me and doing this, I suggest, I guess, pausing this video so that you can get through all of the ones that you're doing. Okay. So you'll do all those. And I'm only doing these 3. Then you'll go into old and new values. So you're going to click on old and new values. And this is saying like, what do you want SPSS to do in terms of the recoding? Like it doesn't automatically know that you want all the ones to be 5s. Okay. You have to tell it what you're asking it for. So our old value, we're going to say old values of a 1, or we're going to turn them into a new value of a 5. Okay, so old value of a 1 turning into a new value of a 5. And then you have to select the add button. Okay. Old value of a 2, new value of a 4, add. Old value of a 3, new value of a 3, add. Old value of a 4, new value of a 2, add. And old value of a 5 is a new value of a 1, add. And it is very important that you're doing all of them here. You can't just there have been people in the past who have just sort of stopped after like the 1 to 5, the 2 to 4, because they just assume that it'll do the opposite and it won't. And if you do that, basically you turn all your answers into 4s, 5s, and 3s, and that is very bad and will result in you having to go back to your original data and fix it. So don't do that. Make sure everything's here. All right, once you do that, you can hit the continue button. Good. So everything should be good to go at this point. Just make sure that you have all of your variables here that have to be reverse coded. So everything that's in lab 3 that's in step 1 has to be moved over. And again, just make sure that for extroversion through openness, for those, you're doing the BF items. And for the self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness stuff, you're doing the SC items. Okay, so we're gonna hit paste. And this is really important because this is gonna be how you turn in your work. So very important that you hit paste. Okay, so you're going to hit paste, and it should give you basically the underlying code that you've asked SPSS to do. So mine says recode BF6, BF21, BF31, using these rules into BF6R, BF21R, BF31R. Okay. What you're going to do for me is at the end of this lab, you're going to copy and paste your entire syntax into a Word document and upload it. Okay. So you're also going to give me your Cronbach's alpha. So I'll explain that a little bit later. Okay. So right now we just need to run it because I've just pasted it. It didn't actually run it. So I'm going to highlight it and push the green play button. Okay, so it automatically pulled up my output because I didn't have an output up before. But look, all it's doing is being like, look what we did. Okay, this is not a good way to check to make sure everything worked properly. The best thing to do is to go to your data. Okay, look down here in my variable view. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see 3 new variables, and you can do data view if you want. And scroll all the way over and make sure they're there and they have numbers, and that's good. Okay, I think that's it for that part. Okay, so once you finish step 1, you will have reverse coded all your variables. You'll have a whole lot of new variables at the end of your data set that are all reverse coded variables. At this point, you're going to move on to step 2. Okay, step 2 involves what's called checking the inter-item reliability for your items. So for this, basically what's happening is, let's say in this particular scenario, 2, 3, 4, you have 8 extroversion questions, okay? And that is true, you have 8. And you want to just make sure that all 8 of them are measuring the same thing. Okay, so you're asking about like, you know, to what extent do you have energy and your enthusiasm level and talking a lot. And it's just important to make sure all those questions are essentially getting at the same thing being extroversion. So what we can do is we can run what's called a Cronbach's alpha. The Cronbach's alpha is essentially looking at the intercorrelations. All right, think about what a correlation is, okay, the extent to which 2 variables relate together. It's looking at the correlations between all 8 of those variables, okay, and essentially giving you an average, okay? It is very important that your Cronbach's alpha is 0.7 or higher. If it's not 0.7 or higher, then we really might question if we should be adding or averaging these items together, okay? If it's not 0.7 or higher, it means that they might be positively correlating with each other, but not well, okay? Not as well as we would want, especially if we're trying to treat them all as sort of measuring the same thing. So you will do this analysis that I'm about to walk you through for every subscale. So extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, openness, self-kindness, common humanity, mindfulness, and life satisfaction. So you'll be running this sucker a lot. I'm just going to do one of them for extroversion, and then you'll do all of them. Okay. So, but I'm going to show you how it works with the extroversion one. What's going to happen though is that at the end of the day, I'm getting a Cronbach's alpha for each scale. So when I look at these 8 extroversion items, I'm going to get a Cronbach's alpha that is hopefully 0.7 or higher. And that's going to go in my paper in the measures section of my paper. So you guys have done your measures section, but remember I told you just sort of like hold a place card for that alpha level. So this is where you're going to go back in and plug in the alphas. All right. Okay, so let's get started. We are going to go to Analyze and Scale and Reliability Analysis. Okay, Analyze, Scale, Reliability Analysis. Again, you know, you can make this bigger. I'm gonna hover in here and right click and do display variable names. Now, it's really important here that you see where I have the extroversion questions lined up: 1, 6R, 11, 16, 21R, 26, 31R, and 36. These are all 8 extroversion questions. It is very important that I use the reversed versions of these that have an R next to them, okay? If I don't do that, my alpha will be inaccurate. It'll definitely be messed up and it'll be problematic. So let's do all the regular ones first. So I'm going to do BF1, BF11, BF16, BF26, BF36. I think those are the regular ones. Yep. Okay. And then I've got to do the R's as well, but those are at the end of my data set. So I'm going to scroll down here to the bottom. All your R's will be down here as well. So just make sure you find BF6R, BF21R, and BF31R. Okay. So there should be 8 because there's 8 extroversion items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. We're not going to ask for any extra statistics or anything like that, but I am going to click paste. Okay, note how I clicked paste here and my syntax did not pop back up, which is annoying. So that means I've got to go down here to the bottom and get it. Okay, so here it is. So it's saying I'm running the reliability on these 8 BF questions. So I'm going to highlight all that and play it. Now when I do that, I should get something in the output file. And it'll give me my Cronbach's alpha. Okay, so 0.847. In your paper, you can round your alphas to 0.85, so you round them to 2 decimal places. But I would need to write that down somewhere, okay, because you're going to have to include this in your Lab 3 assignment. So your extroversion alpha is 0.85, okay? So what is the Cronbach's alpha? It is 0.85. Awesome. All right, so you're going to go through and you're going to do this for all of them. All right, so you've got to do it again for agreeableness, conscientiousness, etc. If I were to go back in to analyze, scale, reliability analysis, let's say I'm going to move on and do my agreeableness ones, I do have to take all of these extroversion ones out. So you can click on the first one, hold down the shift button, click on the last one, and move them back over. Okay. You can also hit the reset button and it'll do the same thing. Okay, but if you do that, after you do that, just make sure you're going in now and doing all your agreeableness items and all conscientiousness, etc. All right, beautiful. So once you have completed step 2 for all of these scales, you'll be ready to move on and compute your new variables. Okay. When you're computing your new variables, you're basically, like we've been dealing with extroversion in this example. So you're taking all those extroversion items and you're averaging them together. So for example, in our analyses, we don't want to try to do an analysis with 8 extroversion items, especially if they're all just measuring the same thing. So what the ideal situation would be is for us to take those 8 items and average them. Okay, so let's say I'm a participant in the data set and I gave a bunch of 4s and 5s, essentially for the extroversion questions. It's going to average my responses, and let's say I get an average extroversion score of 4.33 or something like that. Okay, that's what it's doing. So I'm going to walk through this again with extroversion, but remember you're doing it with all of them. Okay, let's do that. I'm going to get out of this reliability analysis thing. All right, so we're going to go to transform and compute variable. Okay, so first thing, again, I'm going to hover in this box and turn these into display variable names because otherwise it will annoy me. Okay, target variable. this is the name that you are going to give for your new variable. So I'm going to do extroversion. Okay. You could also do like extroversion mean if you want, but something very important here. You cannot have any spaces in a target variable name. Okay. So let's say I just accidentally hit the space bar. Okay. It will reject this whole analysis. It'll be like, nope, sorry. And it's hard sometimes to see because if I go out of it, I'm like, what did I do wrong? I can't see that extra space. So just make sure there's no spaces in your target variable. Okay, in the numeric expression box, like I said, we're going to be averaging our items together. I'm going to move some stuff over here really quick. Okay, so I'm going to type the word mean, M-E-A-N. And then in parentheses, I'm going to move over my extroversion items, and they're all going to need to be separated by a comma. Again, I'm probably going to do the regular worded items first and then go get my reverse coded items at the end because it's just easier. So I'm going to do BF1. Remember, you can double click it and then comma space. Skipping 6R for right now. So BF11. Comma space, BF16, comma space, BF26, comma space, let's see, and BF36, comma space. Okay, so now I need to go get the R's, they're near the bottom. So BF6R, comma space, BF21R, comma space, BF31R, and then end parentheses. Okay. So again, remember extroversion has 8 items, so you could count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks good. Hopefully I haven't missed anything. I'm actually going to throw a space up here just so I can show you how it's going to reject it if you try to do it. So I'm going to throw in that space. I'm going to hit paste. Look, variable name contains an illegal character. So I'm going to say, okay, go back, make sure there's no spaces in my target variable. And then when I hit paste, it should work. Okay, again, you got to go looking for your syntax again. Okay, so here it is, my computing extroversion variable. And I'm going to highlight that and push play. Now, the only thing that you now see in the output is, again, just, hey, you told me to compute a variable. So that's what I was doing. But you can't actually see the variable there. So you'd have to go to your data set. Scroll all the way to the end. Look here, a whole new variable called extroversion. It's very pretty. Yay. Okay. All right, you guys. So that's kind of a lot, but it isn't hard once you get started. So I just did computing the new variable for extroversion. You'll do it also for agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, openness, self-kindness, common humanity, mindfulness, and you'll do it for life satisfaction, okay? Again, up here, the life satisfaction stuff, remember that when you're doing the life satisfaction stuff that you are working with LS items, okay? So don't get confused by that. Make sure you're using the right items there. I'll go ahead and give you a heads up that in step 2 up here with the inter-item reliability stuff, you will get some low alphas for self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. That's unfortunate. It's because it's the short scale. Ideally, we don't actually break them up into the 3 little subscales when we're using the shortened version of the self-compassion scale. And you can see why, because the alphas are not high enough. So you'll record those, but just note that they're technically not high enough to compute new variables with. We're still going to do it though, just for practice. Okay. All right. So let me go back to my syntax. Now, here's what you're going to do for me. This beautiful syntax file here. So what I'm going to want for you to turn in is going to be a new document. I'm going to open that new Word document. Okay, so you put your name, Ashley Ellen, Lab 3. Okay, and you'll basically, once you've finished everything, you're going to just copy this, paste it. Okay, so it looks like that. And then at the bottom, you're going to do like extra, you could do like here. Let's do convex alphas. Extroversion equals 0.85. Agreeableness equals whatever that one is. You see what I mean? You're going to list them all out. So yours will be a lot longer, right? Because you'll be recoding a lot more stuff than me. You'll be running a reliability for every single scale, which is like 9 different scales. So you'll have 9 different reliability analyses, and you'll be computing 9 new variables. So you'll have all those there too. And then you'll list out the Chromex alphas. You'll save this document, and then you'll upload it for Lab 3. Okay. Of course, you can definitely send me questions if you have them. And if you are listening to this, then you will have already watched the video, which will make me so happy. So if people ask me questions and they haven't watched the video, I'll be directing them here to watch it. But that should get you through Lab 3, helping you out to learn how to reverse code variables, how to find convex alphas, and how to compute new variables. And all of that, again, is going to be really important before we can move on and do t-tests or correlations or anything like that. Okay, I'll see you next time.